Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Pokemon Ranger. I sense some familiar people. Oh, surprise, surprise. Hold it right there, you calamity-causing criminals. We got two new Pokemon here, Slugma and its evolution Magcargo. Notably, they have an effect similar to Muck and Grimer in that whenever they move, they leave lava in their wake, which can damage you outright. Both of them, I believe, also still have the same attack that we've seen before from Croconaw and Marshtomp and all that, where they shoot a projectile force that becomes a puddle. Not that it's of any real threat, considering they move much slower than the Grimers and Mucks and compared to a lot of other Pokemon, period. Magcargo scatters lava as it crawls. It'll chase after Rangers. Slugma leaves a trail of hot lava. It also spits lava in blobs. This just isn't my day. Earlier, some snooty ranger girl knocked me aside when I tried to stop her. She didn't bat an eye and just kept going. I feel like such a loser. Well, good news. Dressed like that, you probably are. In the last part, we went through the rest of the challenges here at the Jungle Relic, but were forced to complete the fourth one, thus causing all the, well, gestures vaguely around us. Now that the Jungle Relic is on fire, there are Pokemon all over the place of varying types, and you can no longer access any of the challenge rooms. But there's now Pokemon around like Graveler that allow you to take care of things like this rock you could have seen even in our first visit here last time, or even 2 parts ago. You want to break this specific rock because back here is another new Pokemon. And Tangela, who doesn't really matter as much as the new one. We got Sceptile here. Sceptile might not move pretty fast compared to Trico or Grovyle, but it makes up for it with its attack speed. A lot of other Pokemon attacks in the game, if you notice that the exclamation point's above their head, you can just stop immediately and be fine. Sceptile is one of the Pokemon that if you see the exclamation point, it's probably already too late and you've probably already taken damage. This is why I actually caught that Numel last time, because its Fire Poke Assist allows me to pretty easily nullify the threat overall. Be careful all the same though, you never know what could happen. Sceptile slashes with the leaves on its arms. It'll cut anything that can be cut. And that's, I think, our first level 3 cut Pokemon. Not that there's many times you're gonna need to use that throughout the game. I'd say on the whole, out of all of the level 3 abilities in the game, the one you use the most is probably like the Rock Smash type. Some uppity little rangers. Won't you let this lady interfere with you? Kinda late to finally use the female Go-Rock squad grunt, but oh well. Here we got the only appearance in the game of Rapidash on the whole. Rapidash has a pretty unique attack in that it's a fire charge, but functionally works the same as, say, a Bagon or a Gligar's charge, but it moves pretty far and has some pretty decent speed comparatively. Plus, I think unlike some of the other charges, the Rapidash is completely invincible to capture loops once it's actively charging, because some Pokemon and mini-bosses will have that effect on them. Rapidash charges while cloaked in flames that can incinerate anything. I don't like how it ended, but it felt good interfering with you. I did slow you down, didn't I? Technically. You also gave me experience points, which arguably made me stronger, so it kind of balances out. So the reason I went out of my way to get that Sceptile now is that it allows us to come over here and take down this particular fence. Not that there's a new Pokemon back here, but it's because this is the only place in the area now you can find water-type Pokemon assists. Which, in an area filled with fire-type Pokemon, you can probably see how this would be very useful. In fact, I'm even exiting and re-entering to grab the second one that managed to run away into the water, because it's going to be pretty useful not only for just standard Pokemon around here, but even the boss fight. I specifically recommend saving one of them for the boss fight at the end of this area. So I've talked about how I don't like the bosses in this area to begin with during the main challenges and all that, and it comes down to one thing with the boss fights in this game, universally. You need to do all of the loops in a row. Ranger 2 and 3 have a way around this that works better in the long haul, but Ranger 1's bosses are a trial of attrition. Hey, I thought I recognized you. Remember me, don't you? You don't remember? You really don't? Gah, I'm not taking that. And now we have to catch 3 Slugma. It's pretty easy. I remember you way more than I ever want to. You captured back that Politoed I took from that ranger. Feel bad for taking that guy's Pokemon, but don't you remember me yelling, God, don't ever forget this. Well, this time, don't you ever forget this. Ah, don't ever forget this. I always get a kick out of a Pokemon game doing that with a specific grunt character that just continuously shows up throughout the game. It adds character to the team. But now it's time for Manectric. Manectric's a little annoying in that it has an electric elemental version of the Spinarak web attack that just kind of lingers on the floor for a little bit. I guess it's technically the same as the mud puddle and the lava puddle, but it sticks around a little longer, I think, on the ground. Doesn't take a lot of loops, and there's a reason for that. This is a Pokemon that's meant to restore your energy. Manectric launches orbs of electricity. It can also recharge the styler. I won't let you ruin the boss's dreams. He's trying to create a different kind of ranger. It's probably for the good of the people in society. I know the word probably being used there. For now, it's time for another new Pokemon, Sneasel. Sneasel is pretty fast, and it attacks pretty much on sight of the capture disc, and even at random. Because of its unpredictable movements, I just recommend stunning it somehow, be it Mine-In, Water Poke Assist, even though it's not very effective. Basically, any Poke Assist that stuns for a moment, use it on them. Because they are annoying to capture otherwise. Sneasel Dash is about to slash with its claws. They have amazing cutting power. I said it's for the good of the people in society earlier, but I think it's also for pride and for money, too. Our boss is human, too. And hey, look, we finally get to capture a Rhydon again. And you're gonna want that because it's a pretty good rock smasher, as you can see. One of the best in the game. So going back to the boss fights. You need to, say, in the case of a boss that takes 30 loops, because we do eventually get to that point, do all 30 loops without taking a hit or lifting the stylus from the screen. Which I see why they did that, because they wanted to make the loop the thing and all that jazz, and to make boss fights not over in a single loop like they are usually with the few incarnations of the Rangers in the anime, but it just doesn't feel good in bosses in this game, because either they have screen nuke moves, or their butt moves come out too quickly and you can't react to them in time, some things like that. Very quickly, we actually have a Houndoom here, the first one since the catching tutorial, and it's the one you actively add to your browser. It roams around pretty freely. The moment it sees the capture disc, it lets loose a pretty fast fire attack. Not too hard, especially if you have a way to stun it, but it's kind of dangerous compared to a lot of the other Pokemon around here. Yeah, I think the sequels definitely did a step in the right direction, the best direction even, by actively having, say, a single loop do damage to a health bar rather than needing to hit a set amount of loops on a single go. But even if they wanted to keep the single go for boss fights, I think there are two ways they could have done it better. Either allow you to lift the stylus from the screen for a few seconds at a time, in the case there's like a screen nuke move happening. Or in the case you see one coming and can get out of the way in time, maybe a way to retract the capture line into the capture disc by like holding the L or R button depending on which hand you're holding the DS with instead of the stylus. That could have made this game feel a lot more comfortable. In fact, I even remember reviews at the time in magazines talking about this game as generally solid but frustrating at points, and the boss fights really are the frustrating points in this game on the whole. Like, I remember this game being the hardest of the three, and it really is just because of them. Houndoom blows out a big ball of flame and has no trouble torching a fallen log, not that there's many of those moving forward in the game. Now, maybe the whole doing a loop around in one session thing for bosses is meant to incentivize using Poke Assists, and that's valid. It does give those mechanics purpose, especially if it completely nullifies the boss fight, like, say, the Psychic Poke Assist against the Grimer and Mux, Water Poke Assists against basically anything that's not resistant to Water group, period. But it just is frustrating in the cases they don't give you Poke Assists to use, like in the capture challenges we just did last time. Magmar breathes fire, it can burn up scrap metal easily. Magmar, by the way, moves pretty slowly, does several fire breaths in a row. They're pretty slow. If you're very greedy and have a high enough level, you can probably get a free loop in between each fire breath, but I don't recommend it unless you're super fast with the stylus. Are you still here? I'm telling you this as your senior. Watch out for the Go Rock Squad guy ahead. He's not like the grunts you ran into on the way here. The Pokemon he uses is incredibly strong. I desperately did my best to try to capture it, but it wrecked my styler. I feel so angry and useless. That tremor, something happened in there. You two, you don't have the time to be stunned. Isn't it your job as Ranger to investigate and resolve crises? I hate admitting this, but with my style broken, I can't do my job. As inexperienced as you are, I have no choice but to pin my hopes on you. I recommend saving, because it's time for another mini-boss. Also, if you've already used your water-type Pokésystems, I recommend going to get them back. Say hey, if it's not the calamity-causing combo. Calamity-causing combo kind of likes that street sensibility thing. Calamity-creating combo? Who cares about that? Anyways, I have to hand it to you two. Our boss is mighty pleased, yes sir, tremendously pleased with you. You played a huge part in the testing of our latest styler. But now your part is done. If we let you scurry around anymore, you'll get under the boss's foot. Why are you giving me that eye? I'll show you. Time to work, Slaking. KO these clowns and let's get ourselves a bonus from the boss. Whoa. Slaking is another boss that can be a real troublesome little fellow. Because not only is he a large sprite, which means wider loops to begin with, but his attack is 3 slams on the ground in a row that spread rocks pretty far in the distance. Either start your capture line far away or use a Poké Assist that keeps it immobilized for a good bit, because otherwise it's very easy to take damage if you're doing smaller loops. They really do seem like they want you to do the thing where you start with the little tail on your capture line and then go back from there, like they do in the tutorials, but just with the way the hand comes to rest in this game, that doesn't really feel like a solution that's efficient for most fights unless they're boss fights, which maybe that's the balance they were going with in the game or something, I don't know. This fight can be rough, especially with the amount of damage it does, as you can see. Oh god. If you don't level up off this fight and you're taking as much damage as I do, I recommend going back and using a Manetric and catching another one. In fact, I think I do that. Use whatever you can to stun. This is where the game starts to really up its difficulty moving forward. Also, since I haven't talked about directly, that was the level 4 version of Plus Old Mining's capture ability. It is 5 very thick lightning bolts that are very hard to dodge. Slaking powerfully slaps the ground with both palms to cause tremors. Well, so much for that bonus pay, but that's alright, I sold you a bit. I did my job. Our boss is in the back, but while you guys were fumbling around, the experiment finished already. That tremor a little earlier is proof, but you were too late to stop it. Bye-bye! Great. And now I'm going back not only to save, I also recommend re-grabbing the water Pokésystems if you haven't, but also I came back to go catch a singular Slugma, because it was enough experience to get the next level up, which put us up to 30 health! Your health number does kind of inflate by endgame if you do a lot of extra catching, but with the amount of damage some of the boss fights can do to you by endgame, it is pretty worth it. Oh, I'm so surprised. Is that the Gorok Squad's boss? You are. Oh yes, I remember now. You're my guide from the Lyra Forest. Kyle, wasn't it? You seem surprised. At the time, I certainly wasn't much more than a pitiful old man lost in the woods. But now, I would think the most pitiful people in Fiore would be you two. As the boss of the Gorok Squad, I, Gordor, will explain how this came to be. Consider it a thanks for your help. The legend of the Jungle Relic turned out to be true. Thanks to a pair of gullible do-gooders, the 4th and final challenge was cleared. As a result, the underground volcano erupted, and the Entei was awakened. The Entei, overburdened with fiery energy, appeared to become the first capture of my new styler. Being a legendary Pokémon, it put up a terrific fight, but in the end, my experiment became a smashing success. The loud noise and the tremor from earlier were the result of that capture. That conclusively proves that the Gorok Squad is an organization that surpasses the Ranger Union. It won't be long before we, and not you, are considered legitimate Rangers. Let me assign you your final job as a Ranger. If nothing is done with that Entei, its presence is certain to trigger another eruption of the underground volcano. That will not only destroy this relic, it will devastate the natural environment and ruins people's lives in Fiore. Now wouldn't that be a terrible shame? So let me assign you this mission, which will also mark your retirement. This is your assignment. Do whatever you want, because I don't care. I mean, legendary Pokemon? Sounds like a pretty good challenge to me. Entei can be kinda rough, to say the least, being a legendary. To start, it also summons in 2 Magmar out of nowhere, which seems kind of unfair, but at least those are easier to capture given they have a lower loop count, because Entei takes a solid 13 loops. Thankfully, the moment you capture the 2 Magmar, it doesn't spawn in anymore. It's not an infinite thing, although that would be kind of useful for some experience. Attack-wise, Entei shoots a giant stream of fire out of its mouth that's pretty long-lasting, and I think it's also invincible during some of its animations. Entei is a legendary Pokemon that can skillfully summon and control flames. That went pretty smoothly. Captured the Entei. I'll admit to not having expected that, but that's fine. My experiment was a complete success. Our plan has taken a giant leap forward. With my styler, even legendary Pokemon can be captured without the need for any special skills. Though it's impossible to control the behavior of legendary Pokemon quite yet. But that should soon be reality with only minor tweaks. I'm plenty satisfied with what we've achieved today. Please convey my best regards to your Professor Hastings, the Ranger Union's Chief of Technology. Yes, be certain to give the good professor the best regards of Gordor. So, I guess that's a mission accomplished? Feel like we kinda lost out in the long run today, though. The tremors have subsided. Did you maybe capture the Entei? You did? That's incredible. What exactly happened here? I want you to explain it from the top. Oh, and there was an injured Charizard. You captured it and that was the 4th challenge. That's awful! What a rotten thing for them to do! So that's what you went through. You two got caught up in some terrible things through no fault of yours. Look, it's that Charizard! Looks like it's doing better at the least. And now it's got its own little lava hole to call its entire little territory. That was the Charizard. It seemed to be wincing in pain, but it seemed to be grateful to you. Let's go back to Summerland and report to Cameron what happened. Good for me, get him out of this damn heat. Kyle, Solana, thanks for your report. The tremors seem to be over, so I guess the crisis is past. Both of you, I'm sorry for what you went through. It's my fault for mentioning the challenges. Forgive me. No, Cameron, you clearly warned us about the 4th challenge. We knew that, but... The only people at fault here are the Go-Rock Squad. They're the bad guys. I'll take full responsibility for this. I'll make that completely clear in my report to the Ranger Union. But you know, moping around over being duped is no way for Rangers to be, eh? Come on, smile, be happy and cheerful like the sunshine of Summerland. It was a big ordeal, but you skillfully came through. Maybe you're not so bad after all. Well, I have to do a mission in Falls City. I have to go. See you later, then. It's a rare occasion for Ari to hand out praise. I hope it doesn't bring a storm. It's probably fine. She's just warming up to us. From Professor Hastings to Kyle. I need you back at the Falls City Ranger base at once. Just hurry. You'll understand when you arrive. I got the same message. Doesn't say what it's about, but it must be important. You know how impatient the professor is. You'd better go right away. You should use the Dragonite bus upstairs. I mean, hey, if that's a faster travel, I'll do it. It's not too much slower than the Lapras, given it's still the same town over, but I guess it looks cooler. No need to explain. You're wanting to go to Fall City. You ready to go? Yep. All right, Dragonite, off you go to Fall City. Astonish us with your speed. I think you might be able to go explore the rest of Summerland at this point if you wanted to and catch Pokemon, but there's not really a reason to. Boring experience. Ah, Kyle, you're finally with us! We're off to the Dusk Factory. The Gorak Squad studied my Super Styler and developed their own. Now they've started producing their new Stylers right here in Fall City. Who would have guessed it? They won't get away with this criminal act right under our very noses. And so, Kyle, this is your new mission. Investigate the Dusk Factory. Kyle, why are you befuddled? Let me guess, you're wondering if it's okay to accept a mission from me and not a leader. There's no need for concern. I'm the Ranger Union's Chief of Technology. In other words, anything I ask for can be considered an official Ranger Union mission. Shall we? Okay. Bit sudden, but sure. There's not a moment to be lost. To the Dusk Factory. We've actually seen the Dusk Factory on screen before, but we need to get to it through a different screen than before. Remember where the skitty behind the fence was? We need to head east from that. But with that, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 12, we're taking on the Dusk Factory. See you guys then.